everybody, did this ever happen to you when you were listening to headphones? Well, I'm going to show you how to fix something like that. Recently I bought a pair of Bose in-ear headphones. They're great, I highly recommend them. However, I got a short that developed near the phone plug, the headphone plug. I knew this because when I would twist the headphone plug slightly, the sound would go out either my right ear or my left ear. I got quite frustrated with this over time, and I went up to the local Radio Shack to buy a new headphone plug. What you're going to need to purchase is a 1/8 inch stereo phone plug. This costs around $2 to $3. It looks just like the headphone plug at the end of your headphones. This will work with any brand of headphone as long as it has this 1/8 inch phone plug. You're also going to need a pair of wire strippers. You can get these at Lowe's, Radio Shack, any type of hardware store, around $8. You're also going to need a soldering gun. Soldering guns you can get at Radio Shack for around $10. You could probably get them cheaper at Walmart or anywhere. Mine looks like this, but the one at Radio Shack or at other places might look a little different, but any soldering gun will work just fine. You're also going to need soldering wire. This usually comes with the soldering gun itself. You're not going to need that much, so don't go haywire with buying it. Get it haywire with the soldering gun. Soldering wire, never mind. Alright, you're also going to need a hot glue gun and a pair of tweezers. So let's get this started so you can start enjoying your music. I'm going to show how to put the headphone plug on a pair of Sony headphones. Do the same thing though as the Bose. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the wire as close as I can to the plug. And I might go back just a little bit just in case the short might go down a little bit further. So I'm going to do that now. As you can see, I already took the headphone plug off. I just cut it off. Again, you want to stay around 1/4 inch to an inch away from the headphone plug itself. Then what I did was I actually split the wires in half because they actually have a groove going down the middle. I split them in half, and on this side you can see I already exposed some of the wire using the wire cutter. So now I'm going to show you how to do this side. You want to take off around 1 inch of insulation. I'm sticking it into the little cusp area in the wire cutter itself. Pull down and just pull out, pulling the wire through the wire stripper. And there. You can see I just took off the black housing off the wire, and I exposed the wires that are on the inside. The colored wires are your actual where your sound is being conducted. The copper color is the ground. So you can see in each one of these wires you have the colored wire, which is green here, and the ground, which is here. And the same thing on the other side. You have the reddish color wire here and the ground on the other side. So you want to make sure you keep these separated when you're putting these on the plug. The ones that have the color on them, you're actually going to want to take a small piece of sandpaper and take off this enamel coating on the outside. That color, you think it might be the actual color of the wire itself, but it's actually a coating that they put over the wire to insulate it from this ground wire. So I'm going to go do that now. Okay, so here I actually took a piece of sandpaper to take off that enamel coating off of the green wire. You do this by using any type of sandpaper. I'm using a fine grit 400 grit sandpaper. You're going to pull the wire actually through the sandpaper very gently, like barely put any pressure down. And over time, you'll do this about maybe like 5 to 10 times, you'll start to notice that there's some copper starting to show through. If you pull too hard, you'll start to pull some of the wire off, and you'll actually have to cut more of this black wire on the outside so you can expose more of this wire. So just be careful, try to keep a light pressure. Okay, so I have some of it exposed. I'm going to twist the wire just slightly so that it's one big piece, not little threads everywhere. I'm going to do the same thing to the red wire. Alright, so we have the one side and we have the other side exposed, so let's put this onto the headphone. Here we have our 1/8 inch headphone plug from Radio Shack. You're going to take the black housing off by turning it counterclockwise to expose the internal components. In the internal side here, you're going to see the ground, which is this larger portion here, which is the furthest point away from the headphone tip. That's where you're going to be putting your copper wires. On the outside here, you're going to be putting your red wire, and on the inside portion, you can see how there's a little silver dot in the middle there with a little piece of metal sticking up. That's where you're going to be putting your green wire. These correlate with the left and right sides portions of the headphone itself. If when you try your headphones on and you're listening to music and something just sounds a little bit off, if stuff that normally was in your left ear is in your right ear, you might need to switch these wires around. The red on the outside, green on the inside is just a general rule of thumb that I go by. However, certain manufacturers might use a different setup. I mean, personally, it's up to you if you think that this will be a problem. So let's get this started. We'll start putting the wires on here. Okay, so first, before you start soldering the wires actually onto the headphone plug, you're going to need to put that plastic housing on first. I've done this before where I forgot to put this thing on, and then you have to take everything apart. It's a pain in the neck. So just make sure you do this first. So I'm just going to put all the wires together. I'm actually going to do it one at a time here. There's one. Let's just do one more here. There you go, that was pretty easy. Just make sure you have it on the right way. You want to make sure that you can twist this onto the metal housing once you actually get them soldered on. Okay, so I have the two wires here. I have the red and the green split from the grounds, which are the copper wires, which you'll see in the middle here, they're forming an X there. You want to twist these together because you're going to keep these guys together when you're putting them onto the new headphone plug. So I'm just going to twist that very gently. It just makes it easier later on for you. And there you go. Nice and twisted. I'm going to take the metal portion of the headphone plug. You can see there's actually a hole in the ground area right there. I'm going to stick the copper wire into the ground component of the headphone plug. Alright, so now you can see here I have the ground wire through the hole on the ground portion of the headphone plug. And now I'm going to actually solder the wire onto the headphone plug. I'm going to do that. There's a little switch here at the bottom of the soldering gun. When I turn it on, that's turning the soldering gun on, and that's heating up this tip here. So I'm going to hold that switch on until it starts to melt this metal, which is the soldering wire itself. And you can see it starting to smoke a little bit there. So you're going to put the wire right next to the ground and try to touch it at the same time. It might take a little bit of practice. There you go. There, now that's on. Alright, so now your ground is on. And then you might want to take this tip while it's still hot, and I like to wipe it off with a wet piece of paper towel. Just to kind of keep everything kind of clean. Just be careful. Next, we're going to take the red wire and we're going to pull it through this outside loop. So remember that there was two portions here which actually carry the sound. One was on the outside, which gets the red wire, and then this part on the inside, which will get the green wire. So I'm going to pull this red wire through that loop now, through that outside portion. I'm going to twist the wire up a little bit so it's easier to thread through. Turn it around here to make it easier. Also make sure that the wire that you exposed before with the sandpaper is actually making a connection with the headphone plug. Okay, and there we go. It's through. So I'm going to hold on to that while I kind of rotate this around a little bit. Everything's so tiny here. It's like you're working with a miniature everything. Okay, so now this portion will be ready to be soldered on. So let's do that now. Got my soldering gun here, and I have my soldering wire. We're going to solder it like we did before with the ground. Same situation, same setup. Again, make sure that you don't burn yourself with the soldering wire. So try to hold the wire a little bit up further, a good distance away from where you're actually going to be soldering the metal. And let me just fix this a little bit more so that it's nice and neat. I'll probably cut some of this wire away so that it's not touching any other wire. Alright, so same thing. I'm going to make contact with the gun while I'm pressing the switch at the bottom to turn the soldering gun on. You're going to start to see it melt the soldering wire. And at the same time, I'm going to put the wire onto the headphone plug itself. There it goes. Try not to breathe these fumes in because I'm sure that this isn't really healthy. So far so good. There we go. Okay. Oh, that's soldered on now. Alright, now we're going to move on to the green wire. Alright, so finally we're going to be putting the green wire, the final wire, onto the inside portion of the headphone plug. So we're going to be putting it through that loop. Same situation as we did with the red. I'm going to twist the wire a little bit just so it makes it easier to put through the loop. Again, make sure that you're using the wire that you sanded before so that the metal is making contact with the headphone plug. Heating up the metal and just dabbing it on very gently. There you go. Now you see I got some of the soldering material on the ground there. I'll just scrape that off after it cools down. Alright, so now we're going to need to clean this up. So I'll just break off, like I said, that soldering from before. Maybe I'll trim some of these extra pieces off. Let me see if I have anything that I can do that with. Again, because this wire is so small, you're going to have to get a little innovative when you're trying to actually manipulate it, cut it or anything of that sort. Alright, so a pair of regular scissors worked for that just fine. It might be a good idea before you actually put the headphone cover on to actually test the headphone in a device. Any type of MP3 player would be fine. Just to make sure that when you're moving the wires around that everything seems like it's working okay. And actually, I have both of the headphone buds in my ear right now, and I'm playing music, and I can hear both of them in my ear pretty well. So what I'm going to do is, before I put this cover on, I'm going to actually use some hot glue, use a hot glue gun and glue the wire onto the metal piece. That way it doesn't move around when I'm trying to put the metal cover, or the headphone plug cover on. So I'm going to do that now. Just add a little bit of hot glue. There we go. This just helps keep it together. Okay, so I'm just going to put the headphone cover on. I was having a little bit of an issue. I had a little bit of solder that was sticking out the end here, so I just used the soldering gun again, melted it, and broke some of it off so that I could actually get the headphone cover on. Might take a little bit of pressure. You just twist on. Clockwise motion this time. Okay, and you might want to add a little bit of hot glue to the actual end as well. I don't know, I just like to keep everything nice, neat, and clean. This will also help keep the wire stable so that when you're, walking and pulling on the headphone, it doesn't actually pull on the headphone plug itself. Okay, so I plugged the headphone wire into my computer, and I'm going to turn the music on. And I'm going to put the one headphone up. This is the left earbud. Put it up to the speaker here. Sorry if that got a little loud. And the right side. So you can hear both of them are playing well. So congratulations, you just got a new pair of headphones. Well, now you can get back to listening to music with your favorite pair of headphones. If you're still having a problem with the headphone jack, you can rewire it or actually buy a new headphone jack and start from the beginning. If you're still having problems or have any questions, feel free to comment below. And I'd like to wish you the best of luck. This is Rich's Method signing off. See you later.